I'll take you on it. So, yeah, it's been a year tomorrow. How crazy is that? That's crazy. But it doesn't surprise me. It's actually happened to me a few times.
And
The
you had just
lady,
popped into my head as well.
I did? Or it did?
Mm. No, you had just popped into my head. And next
When?
thing yeah. The day you
See?
sent me the message. Yeah.
See, that stuff's happening.
Mm.
I think that's becoming part of our, like our communication now is the whole intuitive and telepathic. Yeah, I didn't know that.
And
So I
the,
popped in your head. You popped into my head. What's
yeah,
that?
that's, I said the masks are gone completely. The masks are, there's nowhere to
Yeah.
hide. People are still trying to do that. It serves nothing because, it's right there in your face at the moment, and everybody can tune into exactly what's going on.
See, that's what I see is like we all know what we're thinking. And it's coming online and our confidence is coming online with it. So once we get past uh what would I say? The egoic or the programmed dialogue that we pick up on with each other, and I think we're getting past it. I think this year looks really promising, like never. Like it's to me, it feels like a totally new world for the first time since 2012.
It's funny you say that. I think, I kind of dived into Scorpio season, feeling all confident, going, yeah, this is good. It's fine, down in those murky waters, no problem. And then as soon as November hit and the 1111 portal came,
What?
for me, that was, yeah, I mean, I'm quite an active person. I'm always moving around. And on the day of the 1111 portal, I literally was sat in my room, just and stillness. And since then, my whole body's been craving this stillness and
Yeah.
stillness. And I woke up the following day after, on the 12th, and I looked around. It's like everything seemed different, and everything seemed like my whole sense of reality. It's like this one came and pulled the rug from underneath me, and then it was really that root chakra again coming back in
Right.
to kind of go, actually, this is what I believed, and I was adamant, that was my truth. But why do I believe that? And then
Right.
I was all up, maybe others can resonate with this, all up in the mind again. And,
Yeah.
it's not great to be up there because, I think there's a good balance with questioning things. But when you're up there for a long time, things start to really, really loop. So I was going back over absolutely everything that I had learned along this journey, questioning it, going in further. But
Yeah.
why is it like that? But why? But why? Like a newborn child, or
Right.
questioning with a teacher. But why is it like this? And yeah, I was there on the whole way through Christmas time and right up even into the middle of January. My whole sense of, I guess, who you are, being asked to strip it all off,
Yeah.
your attachments, your labels, your identity, everything, and just let it all go. And if you remove it all, like, who are you underneath all of that?
Yeah. Who are you not?
Who, are you-
Like that's what
like,
the well you're what you're describing. I've been not the same way, but like from the people coming on the show. Because this is what I noticed. Like we had the whole Soulogy Fest thing, and I had quite an adventure. And I get back to Texas, and I'm sorry, to Sedona, and we had probably a 2.5 month. We do 60, 70, 80 shows a month, and we were doing 20 to 25 for like 3 months because I had a lot of stuff going on, and I was in transit. And but what I noticed when I came back in September, because we did 240 shows, September, October, November, right, and part of December, and I noticed that people were showing up, and they had this humility, and
yes.
I was like, oh, they're going through it, like that was wild, July through November, that was wild, and so that was part of it, and then the other thing that was really coming through was the humanness. So I couldn't figure out, was this 11:11? Was it 11:22? Was it the solstice? Was it all the above? And I know the linear doesn't have to line up, but everything you're saying is these are the conversations Morgan and I had with each other. These are the conversations we had with ourselves. These are the conversations in the area of what the shows have been. Because after that period, the shows that came after that, there's a whole new world. I don't know what's going on. The information's coming in so fast. Whatever comes in, boom, I'm back on track. But then another one comes, and boom. And so it's this whole new thing. And then I got to thinking about it. I was like, well, that December 21st was exactly 10 years from the original Mayan date that everybody talked about. My friend, Ty Hudnall, who's a esoteric, he's actually a Toltec, student or teacher. So it's very close to the Mayan. And he said that the actual New Earth started the day after that. That it didn't actually start in the 2012. That was the beginning of the period. You know what I mean? So if you don't look at it from a linear standpoint, that was the blink of the eye, boom, everything's there. So I feel like you do. I feel like, and the last thing I was going to say is the privacy, the silence, the alone time, the solitude that seems to be happening. In fact, most of the time when I run into it, even with myself, or like say Morgan's scenario, things that I know going on, my daughter, and other people, it's almost like the universe, it is. The universe has conspired to put us into this silence or this stillness. And that seems to be something that's very prevalent.
And you mentioned a word as well, which I feel is just so important. It's, really, the universe is really humbling us at the minute. And I think people are getting a little bit too far ahead of themselves. You will have these opportunities to go, no, sit, just sit, go sit on the earth, sit right down and come back in here into that stillness, because that's the place you're going to find, the answers. And, I know I mentioned the last time we're on a little bit about my journey of kind of coming in, being very awake as a child and being very connected to the galactic realm. And one of my biggest journeys here was being to come out of that and to really anchor into the earth. And then, being that bridge. And that's been my journey thus far. And now it's like my whole reality has changed from being able to collect on this multidimensional level with everything, being very aware of what's going on. Now it's really sitting and being still and being humbled by what the water in the stream is telling you, what the trees are telling you, what the earth is telling you, what the stirrings are telling you, what the rocks are telling you. And it's really beautiful. There's so much wisdom in there. There's so much coding in there that's, because they are alive. It's a consciousness. And
absolutely.
So I'm in this space at the moment where, as you said, the humbleness of understanding that we are human here. Of course, we're human and we signed up for this experience. But today, as I sat and I asked, just asked Mother, and any kind of messages or words to give on when we come and have a chat with Todd, and I heard the word complacency.
What? Complacency?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Complacency. Wow. Yeah. And I went, okay, do I have to be like, the bearer of bad news here? And I said, no, it's not about that. It's about understanding that we are all collectively, individually and collectively bringing this, evolution together. We all know that, and we're all taking part of it. But I guess sometimes we're kind of underestimating how important it is for all of us to step up and be on board, and for each of us to, understand our importance here. Because I think some people look to others and they say, oh, so-and-so said that this has happened, or this alignment has happened, and these codes have been anchored in, which is fantastic. But don't underestimate your value and what you're here to bring and what you have to bring. And we all have to bring it, because nobody else can. And that was her message. It was, no one else can bring what you're here to do. And I guess along this journey for me, it's been, okay, look into others, because when you wake up, first of all, and we will re-wake, in my case it was a reawakening again, because I decided I can't handle this humanness, I'm just going to numb out completely. And it was 2018 when I got pulled back out of that again. And since then it was kind of looking around, grasping at, okay, what is going on here? And all of these, gifts or abilities or whatever are starting to come online, and I don't know what to do with it, and I don't know why it's happening, and I don't understand. So you're looking to others to lead the way, which is, of course, very normal in this process, but understanding as well that everything is a creation of the internal world it projected out, and everything, their experience will never be your experience. Their way of aligning will never be your way of aligning. So it's fantastic that we can look to others for inspiration, but it's about, well, you're God eternal in the body also. So you need to come back in and find your own rhythm, because dancing to someone else's drum is never going to be your beat.
Yeah. God, everything she said. My friend, he says he calls 2023 the year, the year the guru falls. And he doesn't mean that. Yeah, he doesn't mean that in a bad way. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's taking shots at it.
All over.
Yeah, he just means that the self-sourcing will expand, and so by virtue of that, the the old pattern or the old template, teacher, student, or whatever, is going to fall away. Now, I do a lot of researching. I was doing some last night. I check in on different platforms and pick up on different things, look for people, whatever. And I noticed last night a couple of platforms, one of them in particular, that everyone would probably know, most everyone here, and pretty well organized, well financed, well strategized in terms of building awareness through marketing and public relations and so on. But reading the comments on a couple of their things they put out, people are turning. People are asking, like, for instance, I don't want to give this away. So they made a post. They made a post in some form, and in the post, it was like almost like a trailer or a teaser. Okay, that when you got to the end, oh, by the way, if you want to know the whole story, it's whatever it was, $33, and people were going, and they weren't being, disrespectful. They were just asking. Well, the two that I saw that jumped out at me, they were just asking, if all this stuff you just talked about, which he was talking about, they were talking about, I shouldn't give away the gender, they were talking about,
I think I got
yeah, I know, I think you did. So, like, they were talking kind of like what you were just saying, what we were just talking about. This is what's going on. This is where we're headed. Which, by the way, to your point, I think earlier, is nobody knows what that looks like. We're actually creating the code as we do it, as we go into these periods of. So anyway, I just noticed, and I had noticed before, but I saw it really loud last night, and that's part of the code that we're building, is how do we have an equal energy exchange, and you can relate to that. But and see, to me, I love what you said too, because we think the human's a burden. You're saying, hey, I'm pulling out, I'm sitting here, the mother's telling me, don't become complacent because you make a difference. You don't realize who you are. And how does that extrapolate into our day-to-day, right? And to me, it's becoming real simple. Compassion. Beyond words, beyond cliche. Like, if I don't like you, or I don't like that person's platform and what they stand for, that's where I need to go to work. Because it's not about what they're putting out, portraying who they are, because that's me. It's how it makes me feel. And as long as I'm carrying a charge, I got work to do, no matter what the subject, because it's all me, right? I think that's what you're saying too, which is weird, because we're in this human body, and this is the last thing that I just got, like in the last week, I kept hearing, your soul is your body. I'm like, what? And they're like, it just doesn't look that way. But everything's contained there, and that means everything. It doesn't matter if it's a physical, biological vessel. You actually have everything there. I'm like, oh, wow, okay. You know?
Everything. And this is another thing, you know, when I'm still going through this, and I really am in the middle of this kind of, okay, so why am I here? Because everything I thought I was here to do, all of a sudden, I'm being asked to look in different directions, or maybe not like drop everything, but expand it and go deeper. And one of the things I could hear my higher self was saying, you know, you have it encoded in your system, like all of us do. You know how this ascension works. This is a technology. It's spiritual, it's an evolution, but it's also scientific. And it's all encoded within cells. It's all encoded within the blueprint. So you understand how to do this, Emer, but you've got to trust yourself on this. And you've got to understand that each of the chakras is its own unique portal. And each of those chakras is connected in with areas on the earth, with sacred places on the earth, but also within the galaxy, within the different planets. And it's understanding how to use that technology, but really remembering how to use that technology. Because it's not our first rodeo. We've done this before. Of course, we know we've done this before. And I guess it's where the whole complacency thing comes in. You know, we made mistakes. It went too far before.
Yeah.
And again, the goosebumps are there. And this is why there are, you know, now when I'm connecting in with the rocks, or I'm connecting in with, it's usually the rocks, if I'm honest, the rocks or the water. It's almost like it's like my hands melt away and I'm going inside into a different dimension in there with them. And they are the beings who are like, who gave up, I suppose, at certain points, who decided that they were shifting themselves there in order to hold this information for us. And now we're being asked to connect in with them and to remember. So they were safeguarding these, you know, this information for us, and they don't want us to make the same mistakes again.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, a lot of people will talk about, you know, the love and light and how everything is wonderful. And, you know, we all know, because we're all very honest with this, it's, you know, sometimes it sucks ass. And I mean, there's no other way of putting it. It's tough sometimes. It's difficult sometimes. And that's why I think it's really important to like, you know, to share that and be honest about it, and like, you know, allow yourself to be vulnerable if you need to, because it's not an easy path. And anyone that you see on any platform out there who's putting on that face and who's, you know, saying that they've got it all sorted,
Right.
And that they know it all, run a mile, because that's not the reality of anybody that I know.
That's right.
And
that's right. It's power, you know, over. It's power over. And you
it's
know, even go ahead
as well. You know,
go ahead.
It's the organic nature. I know it's the lag. I guess it's the, you know, the organic nature of these ebbs and flows, and being okay with that and surrendering into that, because there are times when you are pulled back. I say it's like you're taken offline for a little while, and then you're asked to revisit some things that are really prominent that need to be looked at. And it's not about like, you know, the shaming or the blaming or anything. Well, if those emotions come up, great, sit with them and alchemize them, work with them, hold yourself in that compassion, allow yourself to transform them using your breath. But it's about, sometimes I feel like I'm almost in a sling and being pulled back to be catapulted forward, you know, and that point when you're being pulled back and that tension gets tighter and tighter and you're like pinned against the wall, like that ain't fun. And, you know, it's not. But I guess the thoughts I was having today was, you know, at the end of this, you know, when we finish and we're on our last breath, do I want to look back and have regrets? Or do I want to go, okay, you know what? Sometimes we do have to kind of pull on that inner discipline, you know. I'm not saying like we have to, you know, have to deny ourselves anything, but it is about, you know, I've got this rock, I don't know, I just such a strong will sometimes, like this inner soul that kind of knows we have to make a difference here. And we make a difference here by cutting the bullshit and by, you know, allowing yourself to, you know, really take a look at what's keeping you stuck in a loop, or what is keeping you from really like aligning with God's will, or Mother, Father, God, or your higher self, however you want to call it. For me, it's all of the above, but it's like, you know, whatever it is, there's a way past it. whatever is keeping you stuck, you don't have to stay there, but it's about being really honest with
Yeah.
yourself.
Brutally honest. And I think having like discussions. That's why I love the show, because I didn't know this, but as we got into the show, we went over 4,000 episodes in December. So there's a lot of data that the highest level of code and activation and download comes from us speaking to each other. I think this is what you were talking about when they said, "Oh, you gotta go in there and be the human, and not be the human because it's drudgery or toil or painful, because it's so important." And this is what I was telling my friend on the last show. So, like this past week, I saw how, they say all the stuff is done energetically first, and then it materializes on the physical plane. So they were like showing me, it actually looked like a spine, right? Like a skeletal spine, and we were the tail. Yeah, we were the tail, and what's that?
The reptilian tail.
What's that?
The reptilian tail.
Yes.
Were you talking about the very end point?
Yes, yeah.
Of the
Okay,
tail?
I didn't even think about that. But this ties into something else that happened, right? So what I was seeing was a visual, if you can just visual spine without the skull flying around, kind of looked like a DNA spine thing. And we were the tail end of it. And it's all being done. It's like a spiral. But now the manifestation is almost aligned with the whole thing, right? So when it happens somewhere, it happens there. But the whole idea was, or the whole point of it was, I was being told what you're being told, which is it looks like the human's the last one to the party, but they're actually, it's flipped. So then I started to think back, and I thought, God, how many times have I had, say, visitations or whatever, and you go, and you realize that those aspects that are communicating with you have a specificity or a mission or a purpose or an agenda or something on their mind, and through our efforts, we are bringing alignment to them, right? And so they're actually not. Now, some of the really high ones, I guess, are, but so that really struck me, and I thought, wow, we are really, really at the point now where we need to give ourselves some credit, because we are spirit flesh. We are gods in the flesh. It's true, and the only thing that's keeping us away is, of course, deprogramming everything that tells us we're absolutely the opposite.
And sometimes the thought forms can get really, really strong. And, we go through these moments when, I look around and I will see a lot of people, and you can tell that they're really in their head and they're struggling, and all these ideas are coming at them. And I guess when that happens, for me anyway, what helps me is just understanding, okay, this part is not real. These intrusive thoughts, whatever is coming in, it's not real. Just connecting with your breath again. Just sit, like if you take a moment, whatever it is, and just remember that you are God eternal in the body, and this is part of the process, because this is part of the experience here. Just connect in, and no matter how loud it can get at times, know that that is never forever. It's always moving. It's always shifting, and just connecting back in with the breath. And I guess over the last 2 months, which have been a little bit kind of a little bit more taxing for me, I've been doing just a lot of body work, because when we are in the mind, a lot of for me, I find it's really important just to move the body and allow the energy to flow. And I've noticed, you were saying about the physical body and how important it is, and I think I spoke about this the last time, of how we all know we're projected here, so it feels really solid. But then, like, there's points when I'm kind of doing a movement meditation, or doing some yoga or whatever, and I'm looking at my hands, and they start to light up, and then they just start to disappear, and then they come back again, and then they go, and they come back again. So I'm thinking, okay, so things are disappearing. So if we're able to like manifest our hand, and then it goes and it comes on and off again, what else are we able to do? How? And then I'm asking, okay, well, why is this happening? And I guess I'll figure out why it's happening. But for a very long time, since I was even younger, I had these knowings of what we were capable of doing as humans, And I would see, and like it's like it's already happened. Okay, so it's like the hospitals. I see the hospitals, and I see the technology they're using, and I see how they're working with the people, and I know in every cell of my being that we get there. So we all know, that there is going to be an advancement, and things are shifting and they're changing. Just think of it like this time last year when I spoke to you, we were in the middle of lockdown.
Uh-huh.
We couldn't move out of. I just turned 40, and I like celebrate like a big, like a bold teenager sitting by myself, kind of wondering, like, why nobody can come over. And, that was like last year. We celebrated Bridget's Day here in Ireland yesterday. And this time last year, I was sitting on the floor with 3 of my friends making crosses. And last night we were all out and together and celebrating, from young teenagers right up to, people in their 60s, 70s, all coming together, women just coming and sitting and just allowing themselves just to be, and to anchor that feminine presence, that divine feminine presence in. Some of them not even knowing why they're there, but it's a call that's coming,
Huge.
So,
Yeah,
and this has just been one year. So what's the potential? That's only been 1 year. That's just a little reflection of what's happened in the last year. But like with the technologies, new technologies coming online, I know that like instantaneous healing is possible.
Yeah.
I just know. I know
Our
I know.
technology. We are. I mean, like the technology's in us. It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
not to mention what we can create, but I mean, we have this. We have this. And so, like,
Yeah.
I think, some of the words that came up in December and January, people bringing different things up, but like everything's taken on a new definition. But responsibility, accountability,
Yes.
are big. Like so much of our wake up, which is one of the reasons I like talking to you a lot, and everybody. Don't get me wrong, but I really admire when someone's not, because it's not easy to do. It's not easy to have the type of journey you've had, which it seems like a blessing. Oh, I woke up and I was already, but I mean, when you were born, and then, but that's not an easy thing. And everyone here knows that we're all the outcasts, we're all the weirdos, and all that stuff. But it's such a powerful thing to receive the information and it not go to our head. To some degree or another, I know it does, but I mean to not really affect our ego. So I'm watching this whole thing happen. This humility that I was talking about. It used to be 2, 3, 4 years ago. Oh, I was a crystal holder in Atlantis, or I was this, or I was that, or I was Jesus, or I was Lady Nada, or whatever. Bullshit. Okay? That's simply memory in code. That's it. The real code is here. So we really heard Atlantis really loud this last week, and I don't get stuff like that, not normally. And it was all about, I had to actually go, I became either my Anunnaki aspect or I became one, because I had already had an experience, a very, very lucid experience with Morgan, another lady, back in Atlantis when that force came in. But I was a man of Atlantis in that experience, and I immediately became a slave, and they took the women, right? Well, this thing that happened a week ago, they came in and they go, no. You think that you're like this, balanced guy that sees God in everything? Well, let's try this. And they stuck me in the Anunnaki, and I became the oppressor, the rapist, even the molester, and it was like, whoa, But the point that I got from it, which is along the lines of what you're talking about, is to be responsible for it all. It doesn't matter if you literally were that Anunnaki being. It doesn't matter. You are responsible for all of Atlantis, for all of the journey. So what I see, what I'm getting to, is that I'm watching people gravitate from, oh, wow, I was this and I was that and I was this, or I can do this and I can jump through fire hoops, to, hey, we created this. In a sense, we are the fallen angels. In a sense. Now, it could be literal, but metaphorically speaking, and maybe this is a playground, maybe it's, but we created all of this, and we are actually correcting our own mess. It's kind of what I got, and what I see people doing. Yeah.
That's exactly it. You know, sometimes I have this sensation that we've actually come back from the future in order to fix the mess that we already created, if that makes sense. Sometimes I really feel that, you know, and I don't know, like, I look at all the architecture around sometimes, and I really like a question, like, you know, I know the history have their own little version of what's happened here, but the technology that's built into the architecture, I mean, come on,
Yeah.
it all serves a purpose.
Yeah.
And I don't know, sometimes I really do have that sensation that, you know, we are the ones who kind of messed up, and now we are coming back in order to help eradicate it. But that's why it's, you know, just to remember, you know, we don't want to go down the same path that you can. We don't want to make, you know, this, we don't want to, we've been there, done that, and now it's about, okay, what can we do, like individually and collectively, to make sure that, you know, that we anchor. For me, it's about helping to anchor the frequency of the goddess, to restore that balance, and then taking accountability that, you know, our thoughts, our words, our actions are constantly creating, constantly. But it's also, you know, you spoke about, you know, being human and the humanness, and I think we can't hide out in caves. We can't, you know, it's lovely to find that stillness sometimes. We can't, you know, hide ourselves in a room, because we are here to help everybody as well, you know. So it might be like a really small example is my son broke his elbow the other day, and we were down in the ER room with him, and there was a lady who came in, and she was in complete and utter shock, because she had fallen too, and she had an injury. She was bawling, crying, because she was in shock, and everybody was just staring, you know. And I just walked over and asked her if I could get her, you know, would you like a drink of water? And I sat with her for a moment, and in that moment she looked at me, and that's all she needed. She didn't need anything else. She just needed somebody to be there with her and just to smile. So I smiled, offered her the water, and she looked, and she's like, you know, you're going to go straight to heaven. And I had a little kind of inward smile going, God, if it only were that easy. But in a certain way, it is, you know, maybe it is. Maybe it's just about, you know, finding those moments of, you know, of finding compassion and being human, and, you know, really doing a good job of being human, because we, you know, the rest of the stuff is going to awaken within us as long as we're able to stay as present as we possibly can. Stop trying to avoid the situation that we're here, you know, trying to search for, like, it's going to be after the next alignment, it's going to be amazing, or this is going to happen, it's going to be amazing. It's about, well, you know, how can you find that joy now in where we are, and how can you find that joy today? And it's not about, you know, beating ourselves up if we make mistakes. I don't really, you know, but I mean, you know, we get ourselves into loops, and we have all of these things that we're practicing in order to you know, to shift past it and move past it. And it's about being kind to ourselves on the journey, but also understanding that we really do have stuff to do here.
Oh yeah. And you know, I've been guilty of this because I'm the I mean, I'm not gonna say the biggest cheerleader, but I'm a big cheerleader for the human being. You know, I really am. I go to whatever you want to call it, councils or whatever you do, and I'm there, and I'm saying, hey, we're the ones here doing the work, and we will be heard. But by the same token, I can say, oh, we're really special. Oh, and I do say this, and a big part of me believes that this is a very unique time, that this is something that's never happened. But then I start to get pulled back, and this has happened a lot in the last few weeks, as you were talking about. Why am I here? Why does it matter? You know, I mean, we were looking, like Morgan and I, we're not who we were.
No.
And if we could have come out the other side and not stay together. Okay? But we made it, right? Now, we're not the same person. Soulogy, not the same thing anymore. I thought about, do I close the doors? You know? So everything gets written. So this all gets pulled back, and I'm told, look, you're no more special. You're special, but you're not. Y'all are special, but you're not. And the only thing special about y'all is that you're the ones here. And the rest of them are your messengers or your aspects or whatever the case is, or your history or your memories or your past lives. But the only thing that's important is the present and what you're doing now. How aware you become of yourself, and then as by virtue of that, what can you actually do? Because we're not playing by the old rules anymore. So when you talk about your hand, I've had some experiences I won't get into. But if that's happening, if that's happening, think about it, all the parallels that run with it. Everything else is expanding as well. The only thing about, let's just say those positive attributes, because we're so focused all the time, we've always been focused on the shadow and this, and but is we're not aware of the extent of our skills and abilities in total, or even with one specific one. How do we cultivate those things? Like, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, to talk to people like you, how do we figure out what we can do? I mean, you know what I mean?
Okay, I guess for me, and what I've been picking up from the last while of going down deep into why am I here, the humans, us, we all have issues in our root chakra. We all have, and because it is part of the coding that we carry now, and it's part of the distortions, and we're all trying to awaken this heart center. And I have, like, the ladies ask me all the time, well, how do I just love myself, and how do I just open up this heart? And for me, well, we gotta get the root really. We gotta work on our root, we gotta work on our sacral, we gotta understand the importance of our wombs, for men and for women, because this is this is what we're birthing through. And I guess whenever I'm out on the land, I tend to go out by myself, but it's almost like you're connecting in with the cosmic womb. It comes in through you, it goes into your womb, and then from your womb it anchors into the womb of the earth. Okay, so it's like everything is birthed through this womb space, and we all share it, men and women, like energetic womb, and we have the physical womb. And the energy, it needs to come up along, it needs to shift up here. It gets stuck here in the solar plexus a lot of the time, and then we're finding it really hard to bring it up here into the heart center. So then it needs to go up through the throat before then we could go up and up in that way,
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people are still stuck down here because we do have so much of that, distortion still in our code. And you can blame the reptilians or the Anunnaki, whoever, because it's all us anyway. We all contribute to this. But it is about, okay, well, how do we reverse this, and how do we work on aligning with our God codes that we also carry? Because I feel that we're still stuck down in these three chakras. And this is like for first, second, maybe third, dimension. We need to move up here. We need to move up here. And I guess for me, I always see the throat chakra as the fifth dimensional chakra. I know the heart is also really important, but it's the womb and the throat, and that connection of opening that up, and understanding that, this is why our sound is so important. And this is why so many people struggle with, using their voice or finding their authentic voice, because this down here is still blocked. And this is our fertility, this is our creation, our creative force, and our and you can see how that's playing out with humanity, because you can see all of the how so many people struggle with fertility. And I'm not just talking about we're creating, like, we're stuck. If you look at the vast majority of humans, where are we? We're stuck numbing ourselves.
Right.
We numb ourselves with scrolling, with Netflix, in Ireland it's huge, alcohol is huge. We have this reputation of going to the pub, the Irish pub, and drinking a loads, but this is quite normal for a teenager to go out and have like 10 pints of beer in the evening, and then whatever else follows, because they've seen everybody else do it. So for them, they wouldn't even blink, batter an eyelid at thinking, perhaps that's not the best idea for me right now. So it's about, okay, well, how do we stop this numbing? how do we stop that numbing of ourselves?
Yeah.
Because that's coming back into the body.
Yeah.
And we need to be back in the body because this is our portal, and this is the mechanics of every aspect of our soul, as you said, earlier on. Our soul is encoded in here.
Right.
But we need to bring it all. We need to be present in it, and that means you're going to have to feel.
Yeah.
And people don't want to feel a lot of the time.
Yeah. And yeah, I think and I'm not the one to come up with this, but the body's on point. Like the body, like it was shown to me in the last 2 weeks. I was told specifically, I'm trying to remember, but first of all, the body's taking control. Like things are happening. I know I've talked to a lot of people. Their diets are changing. They're not eating as much. I'm eating like a third of what I used to eat, and I'm also not eating the same things. I'm not hardly eating any meat. Just not because I'm a vegan or a vegetarian, but because my body says no.
Just says no.
There's certain things that are going away, but it's my body, and what I was getting is your body is just, in other words, it's at the round table of all your monadic aspects. Let's put it that way. So you got your galactics over there, and you got your elemental, and you have your human body, and it's not a singular thing. It's a multi-dimensional within itself, just like the rest of them are. Yeah. But it's getting very loud. I don't think the bodies are going to allow us. I mean, I love Guinness, and I love cold beer, and I love Irish whiskey, but my body has told me, you can kind of like feather this out. And I don't get drunk and disorderly. Don't get me wrong. I'm just, even for culinary purposes, I make that joke. I like to have a whiskey and a beer with a sandwich or a barbecue, or whatever the case is. But my body's not allowing this anymore. Yeah. I'm drinking a lot of tea. I mean, so there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with the body. And then back to what you said about the hands, I think there's a direct relationship. So last week was a pretty big week. 7 nights in a row, I connected. Like the minute I connected, boom, I'm out there. And I'm thinking, whoa, like that's, it could just happen instantly. So I was playing with I've been working with time a lot, but it's been real natural. I think a lot of people were talking about, time's doing weird stuff. Okay, good. Time is out. I'm going to work with space, which I've done before, but not to this degree because I hadn't connected that to that level. Anyway, long story short, I ended up landing in I guess our house. Morgan and I were in this house, and I'm talking to her. So what had happened? I had gone from meditative state, conscious and awake, straight into lucid dream. There was no disconnect. I was more visualizing, then it just took over. So these are the things that are happening. And just as your hand was disappearing, I mean, to me, that's huge because that's what I'm feeling now. I don't know how to say this, but this is the closest I've. It's like what I'm sensing is that any moment now you break through and you're in that lucid dream type atmosphere versus what we've created in this hologram.
I can see everything starting to shift form. I mean, sometimes I'm looking at a person's face, and it always is the same process. It's like this white aura comes around them. It gets really blurry, like really white. It lights up, and then they start to merge or shift. And sometimes, sometimes they'll go completely. Their face will disappear, and I can see through the wall behind them. And
is this like right in front of your face? That's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like sometimes if I'm looking in the mirror. My husband has a real laugh watching me do this sometimes because he'll walk into the room and I'm like staring at myself in the mirror and he's like, "What are you looking at?" I'm like, "I'm looking at nothing." He's like, "What are you talking about?" And it's like my face disappears, and then it'll merge in with something else, and then it'll merge in with something else, or then it might be just a hole. There's nothing there, and I just find this absolutely fascinating, because at the end of the day, we are all projected here,
right,
by mind, aren't we? Right. It's a universal consciousness, a universal mind, and we're all projected here. And it feels really solid because the energy is moving so slowly here. But are we really here? These are the kind of questions I've been pondering over the last 2 months. It's like, what is real? What's not real? Because I just see the difference of what's happening. I'm starting to really experience things that I remembered from when I was younger that were possible, and now they're possible again. Like, I have such strong memories of being able to levitate but standing, and I know these are from Lemuria. They're so strong. It's like we were standing outside of a temple, and we would levitate up like this, and then if we needed to disappear and make ourselves invisible, we could just make ourselves invisible, and then we'd fly, and we would, if we had to check out, say, and if there were people coming or whatever, sometimes we were at the temple. If somebody was coming over, sometimes we would it was like a cloak of invisibility, but I can see it still. It's like we just shifted frequency, and then we weren't there, and we flew. And that sounds completely bonkers.
No, no, it's not. No, it's not. I was telling somebody yesterday, I've had this constant sensation, especially during those 7 nights. There were 7 consecutive nights where I had this intense connection, or whatever you want to call it. But this feeling of flying or swimming, and not just flying and swimming, but actually, how when people do light language and they move their hands.
Yep.
As I was, of course. But as I was doing it, I was, I guess, like Pokemon or Dragon Ball Z. I was creating energy balls as I was swimming, and it was. So I think this is the stuff that's going to come online, but I think it's directly predicated on the continuation of our choices. Ramona put up a comment a minute ago when we were talking earlier, and I think that kind of sums it up. She said that we're merging the angelic and fallen angelics as one. Okay, and then she says simultaneously we're asked to decide who we want to be, and I really think that that's what it comes down to. This whole thing about the Great Divide, I personally feel after the last 2 weeks that it happens, I'm going to say what most people would say my higher self said. I don't like to use that term, but I'm not comfortable with it. But my understanding is that we're all the Great Divide, and that we've divided. And if you look at the end of last year, all these couples that were breaking apart, and even like the situation I was talking to with Morgan and I, we went like this. Now, it's it's not 3D or 2D, so what does that mean? It means the individual is going to pull their energy in, become more present with themselves, become more aware, become a better version, you might say. So it's not like a negative thing. This Great Divide always sounds like, oh, the bad people are going to be over there and the good people are going to be over here, and you better not miss the bus or you'll be in hell. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's part of. I think it's the step before union. Whether it be in me, here I got the human in this hand, I got the soul in this hand. I'm not going to let go of this human because the universe is telling me how important it is. Now, how do I work this out? Well, and then the third is born, which may be us.
Yeah. I remember one point having this vision, and it was almost like I was just looking down a time, and it was our human story. Like I was just watching the whole thing, and it was all spiraling and it was merging, and there was flashes of this and flashes of that. And the concept I was like receiving at the time was watching that you're all doing this, and you all know that you're on each side of the spectrum, but when it really matters, and you get to that point, can you all merge into that non-duality? Can you all merge into that understanding of, we can't label this the dark, we can't label this light, because it's just creation. Yeah. It is creation. And can you play over here on this side, play over here on this side, and can you not judge any of it? in order for it to be all okay, because when you come in at this crucial moment, when it's right now, this is when everything almost folds in on itself and it becomes this unified form. I don't even know how to explain it, because it's not something you can put into words. It felt like this, just coming in and just everything just merging into the true essence of what we all are, which is love.
Yeah. And to think that it's all. Oh, by the way, Ramona said she wants to have a cup of coffee with you again soon. Ramona Lappin lives 30 minutes from Emer. So isn't that cool?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of Irish people in the house too. Thank you for coming. That it will come down to the personal integrity of a human being. I mean, that's the only. You could describe it other ways, but in other words, every choice we make, every thought, like you were saying, every word, every action, is potentially bringing alignment to all timelines and dimensions, because we're in every one of them. Going back to, let's talk about, and I really feel like that the gold comes from talking about the dirt, right? So if it's Atlantis, okay, let's stop talking about all the fluffy love and light bullshit, right? Let's respect it, obviously, and all that. But what happened and why? Oh, we want to tell these stories and say, oh, the bad guys came in and they took over. Well, maybe you were a bad guy, and even if you weren't, like, I still don't know, was that me being put into that Anunnaki? Or was that me being... Matter. That's exactly right. See, it doesn't matter. So we have to own everything. And I feel like it's just such an ironic thing. But then again, that's how the universal works. It's always a paradox. So what we thought was the smallest player was the biggest one. And what we think is the smallest act is the biggest one. So I look at this platform I was telling you about. They got big numbers. We've always tried to stay under the radar. We're on multiple platforms. But still, our numbers aren't apparently. But again, it came in and they said, look, you've been through this before. We don't need to go over this. That's not what is happening. What you guys have done, all of you people, the Emers and the Ramonas and everybody, Adams, everybody, that has permeated into, that has built, that has turned on the new grid. And
I think it's about just making it okay to be human here, making it okay, and just understanding that, we are all going through this and nobody has the answers at the moment, but bringing it right back to the simplicity. I mean, you can look to whoever you want throughout history and like, okay, they made a difference, they made a difference, they have made a difference. What have they all got in common? And you will probably find, okay, well, it was the simple acts of working from your heart.
Yeah.
And this is not about, these are the things that you do when nobody else is watching, or the service to, to Gaia, or to, these are the things that we are all doing. Nobody sees us doing them, and it doesn't matter, because they don't need to know about it. They don't need to see us doing it, because that's call from your soul that is so strong that it won't be quietened. Even if you were trying to shut it up, with the ego mind is telling you, no, not today. I'd actually rather just sit down and just not do anything today. It's about, can that voice, can it be louder? Can that be the one that we listen to?
Yeah.
And I guess that is where sometimes that spiritual discipline does have to come in, because everything is a choice, and sometimes I'm asked to go somewhere and I'm like, oh God, I really don't feel like doing that today, or that's not really, there were plans. I'm a mom, I've got kids, I've got stuff to do as well. But it's about, if I sit down and take that 5 minutes just to breathe into it, I go, no, I can make that work. And those are the choices, and they don't have to be big, huge things. But it could be a small little thing, like recycling. You have something there and it's dirty, and you have to rinse it out. You can throw it in the trash, or you can put it in recycling. But you have to turn the water on to rinse it out before you put it in recycling.
Right.
All of the small little things all add up. All of them.
Yeah, and everything's different for everybody. So that's something we got to remember too. I might be a carnivore and you might be a vegan. It could be a multitude of other, properties of our experience here. But it just strikes me at how people talk about embodying all these years. Wow, you talk about, this is where we're at now. Like, we're talking about embodying everything. Like, to be fully present mentally, emotionally, in touch with yourself, physically, working that direction, like for whatever it is, for whoever it is, walking a mile, whatever it is. And you think, well, is that because it's going to make us, like Puritans? No, I think going back to the whole thing, the science thing, this is actually the key or a characteristic in the evolution of turning on our, what we might call supernatural powers from the perspective we've had, but it's nothing more than our natural nature.
Our natural powers, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And as you said, the intelligence of our body, the intelligence of our organs, they are constantly communicating with us. So if you don't have to go out and say, okay, I need to give up meat now, or do this or do that and the other, because that guilt is telling you need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you're missing the point.
Yeah.
It's not about the judgment of that. That's not it. It's about how you have your relationship with yourself, where you understand what your body is telling you. Yeah. And what is aligning for you at the moment. And then you could have a moment like, I don't eat meat, but around Christmas time, my body was craving turkey. So what do? Do you go, oh no, I can't do that because this? Or like, actually, can I sit down with my body and ask it what it needs right now? And can it be okay without the judgment in it? So I'm like, okay, I'll have my turkey. And then the next day I'm like, oh, I can't look at that anymore. So it had what it needed, and that was it.
Yeah, exactly. Every day is a new day, and every moment. Yeah, every moment.
And something that, what I'm hearing the whole time as well is, don't underestimate the importance of sound for us.
Yeah. For
all of us, to use our sound, to use our voices, to sing to ourselves. It doesn't matter what it sounds like, because your sound is so healing. Yeah. All of our voices heal us because they bring in our unique vibration, and they help to restore balance. They help to kind of really connect us in with that voice of the soul that we want to listen to, as opposed to the head that's going to give us all sorts of stories. So one of the most powerful tools that we can use is just to use our sound. Hum to yourself, sing to yourself, whatever it is, chant whatever you find. But I mean, we all know that, there's before, like, pre-matter is sound and light, and then it comes down that we're creating from there. So, I mean, it's free. We don't need to go out and buy anything. We all have a voice. And can we move past the thought? Maybe we might have a thought come in like, oh, I'm not good at singing. I'm not good at doing this. I'm not good at doing that. What's on the other side of that thought? If you push through it and just do it. Yeah,
that's a great point. That's a really great point. I don't know if you know what happened the last half of last year. Nothing happened. It was a beautiful experience. I totally enjoyed it. But the reason I want to bring this up is because of what you just said. So I was called to Sedona, and my friend Ty is an accomplished musician, degreed. I mean, this guy's, not to mention just naturally, intuitively. And so I started, so they said, sit down in this studio and let's see what we can do. Do you want to rap? Do you want to... I'm thinking, holy shit, no, But I also knew, because like you said, the soul pushes you, right? And oh, I got to do this. So, but the reason I'm bringing this up is because if I have to point, because I mean, I raised a lot of energy last 6 months of last year. I mean, I can speak for myself. There's a lot of people involved that were involved with the Soulogy Fest and other things. I moved a lot of stuff. I can say that to myself, and I just share that with you all. But the most important thing that happened to me, the one thing that allowed me to stay in my power through all the chaos, and there was chaos, major chaos, was the fact that I found my voice. Now, I'm a public speaker my whole life. I've done some rapping. I've done a little bit of melody, but I've never considered, and I still don't. But every once a week, like Ty and I did it last night, he just turns on some music, and you just start making up words and melody. Now, 25 or 30 sessions ago, it was horrifying. But it was also liberating. I still go back and listen to the first 3 sessions. I've come a long way as a vocalist, and I'm not saying that I'm a vocalist. I'm just saying in comparison to where I was. But that's not the point. I can still go back there and I can remember that moment when I just went for it, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I sound like Willie Nelson. I got an accent and I sing through my nose a little bit. But it was the power that it drew into my soul. The only thing that I can compare it to is when I reawoke in 2011, I had just taught myself how to dance. And I spent those 2 years homeless, 5 or 6 nights a week dancing in the black and electronic clubs. And it was my soul anchoring in. So there's something about the throat chakra, the sound, you know, be it light language, be it toning, be it a song, be it conscious rap. But there's something about that. And it's not just that you do it, but like you said, what happens when you push through? And I really feel like that's a really good metaphor for people.
Yeah. What's on the other side of that thought? What's on the other side? What happens if I push through?
Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned as well about the dance, because they're my 2 go-to things to do when I'm feeling, okay, there's something there, I just can't shift it, or I'm feeling stuck, or, you know, okay, well, I'm just going to move the body, and I start like that, and then it's like you lose yourself, and then the mind goes, because your body just takes over. I'm really good at surrendering to the body and just letting it move, but I mean, that's something that in the beginning feels really inorganic, and you're like, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that, but it's like, what happens if you just allow yourself to flow? What happens? And then I'll notice what I'm doing, because I'm tuning in and I'm seeing where I'm shifting the energy through my system. And so we can naturally do this. Like it's part of our kind of mechanisms to keep our bodies in alignment. Our voices are here in order to help us reattune back into our soul. Our body is there to move in order to do that, to shift the energy, to move the energy wherever it's getting stuck, and to anchor in then, because when you surrender to the movement and you're not trying to plan anything, then your soul steps in to move your body and to shift it in what way it wants to do. So it's a form of prayer. It's a form of, meditation. Yep. And again, it's free.
I totally agree with that. You know, and again, a lot of these things you don't realize until you have the time, the distance to be retrospective and look back. But I like even last night, we kind of decided, let's get together once every Monday night, and we'll just set a time and do an hour. So he hit me up yesterday, and I don't know, afternoon, I'm going to be here all day if you want to do something. If not, I'm not attached. I'm like, cool. But everything in me was like, I'm tired. I've been purging. I don't really feel like it. I don't feel like I have any creative thoughts in my head because it's all pretty much improvised. But that thing happened. The soul was like, you're going to do this. You're going to do this. You're going to do it anyway. And, and I'm glad I did. And the thing is, you might do an hour, whatever it may be. It could be dancing, could be, but there's always like this 10 minutes or this 12 minutes or this 18 minutes where you're just, and you're right. Even because I remember like when dancing, I was never aware of the people around me.
No.
You're in your own space. And so I think this is why it resonates so much with me, what we're talking about, because I have a feeling that this is how we operate everywhere. Like life is art. It's all creative. So where is our strength? It's in that space you're describing, like that space in between, right? It's not the inhale. It's not the exhale. You know what I mean? Pause. It's right in the, it's like right between conscious and intuitive or something like, and
that's the magic. That is the magic. And I mean, we are creator beings. That's what we're here to do. We're here to create. And I guess that's why a lot of people get so depressed when they're here, or they feel so frustrated, or they feel so disconnected, because on a soul level, we know that we are here to create. And I guess that's why it is really important. We're all building this new reality together, and collectively we're all in charge. We're all in charge. We're all responsible. We're all building it in together. And that's why I guess it is important to be on the ground with people. We can't hide out in our rooms all day long. It's important to kind of understand that, okay, I can get in my room and I can meditate and I can find this beautiful alignment and I can have all these incredible experiences, and that's fantastic. But put yourself in a shopping center and see how you do. How are you going to cope there? Or put yourself with your family and see how you get on, especially, when they've got all those dynamics going on. This is where the real mastery comes in for me. And this is where you be humbled again, you really will be like, oh, I thought I had that sorted. And it's like, no, you're going to revisit that theme, because there's, there's something you're not seeing there. So allow yourself to go back there every now and again. And sometimes you do feel like you're taking a step backwards. But again, it's like that catapult. You have to go back in there before the next part of expansion happens, because your soul in the driving seat here, and it's not going to awaken all these beautiful gifts that we all want to come online and everything to happen for us, unless we really get some of the basics down. And that is like, can you just be a decent person? Can you listen to others and have an open heart when they're wherever they are on their journey? And we are all on this in our own space, and at our own time and on different parts of the journey. But can you have compassion for the other people where they are and wherever they're stuck? And they're stuck probably because they don't feel they're creating anything. They don't feel like that their soul is not coming through them, and they feel that disconnect from their soul, and it's a really sad place to be, and it's a really hard place to be. So that's kind of nice sometimes when you do have to take that step back there and feel that for a little while, because it really reminds you, okay, well, this is where the vast majority of people are. They're not where, they're not in the state of bliss. They're not. This is where they are. So can we hold them when they are there and help them, whatever way, that shape or form that is?
Yeah, and ourselves, right? I mean, and we've all had dimensional experiences, right? Out of body, some of us out of body experiences. And, like when you have an out of body experience, it's like, I don't want to go back. I love it here. What is this place? But, I mean, obtaining or aligning with bliss and joy and happiness is a very simple thing in a place like that. And again, I think we need to take a look, or consider taking a look at the inverse positions or attitudes or beliefs of the human journey. And so, again, maybe if we take another look at what we're doing here and what we're resisting, such as unity consciousness or whatever it may be, peace or whatever it may be, let's look at the challenge. Let's look at the degree of effort. Because there could be a strong case made that this is one of the toughest, I've talked to a lot of people over the years, the Francos and everybody else that has that type of intel that says, hey, this is the toughest school we've ever made. So let's give ourselves some credit for the degree of difficulty. Because we're not losers. There's no one here going to lose. It's just a matter, and there's no deficiency in how much potential we fulfill. Okay, so I think this may be something, part of that humility and humanness that we were speaking about, where we start to go, and that assists us and facilitates us in creating a greater level of unity consciousness, because now we can look at our neighbors and everybody and go, hell, you're going through the same thing I have. It just looks different on the surface. That's just the story. That's just the narrative. But the energetics of it, we've all been through the same thing.
All in there, yeah.
And big
and
respect.
The feeling of being stuck, and the feeling of being stuck, and I see that, and I see that in my own family. I see it, all around, and it's not a nice place to be. It's not a nice place to be. But we're all shifting. We are all helping, and like that's why all of us go and do our own work, and it makes a difference. And as I said, at the beginning, like don't underestimate how much of a difference we are all making
Yeah.
just by staying present with it, and just by doing the simple things.
Showing up. Showing up. We
Showing
showed
up
up.
and saying yes to your soul, like saying yes to your soul when it asks you to do something. I know it's like, I mean, it's all about choice, isn't it? Sometimes you don't want to do it, but that's when it is like, okay, you know what? I don't want to reach the end of my days and look back and go, oh my God, what did you do in that time that you were, your soul was asking you to go do something? Were you scrolling on, on YouTube, going through, whatever
Yep.
shorts or whatever it is? It's so easily done, and that's the matrix and how it is there and how it's being built up at the moment in order to keep us in this state of constant distraction.
That's right.
Constant,
That's
constant
that's right.
distraction.
And did y'all catch
And
what she said? I mean, and just so we know, as a point of reference, there all the big tech is moving towards that format.
yeah,
They're not. They're actually going to push out long run videos. I mean, and that's the reason, is what you just said, because it's I mean, I'm not perfect. I find myself doing it once every 2 or 3 days, like literally sit there watching something while I'm cooking, or but to the point where I know this is infecting me, right?
everybody's doing it,
Hmm.
some more than others. Some are aware they're doing it, and it's even harder when you should know better, I guess, because you understand what's happening, but then you find yourself getting pulled in and caught in it again. You're like, oh my gosh, it's so easily done. That's
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
but it is everywhere. So it's, yeah, that's why I
Well,
haven't really been on social media in the last little while. I think I've had, that little space where I just needed that
I
stillness.
think a
But
lot of people,
no,
have moved away. I don't. I'm not on near as much. I'm not even posting like I used to. But I think a lot of people, and I think a lot of this is natural and organic, and that's another thing we probably need to give some credence to. Is there is something happening that's, I don't want to say bigger than all of us, but bigger than all of us, because it's made of all of us. It's like the one soul, mind versus the soul within myself, or whatever. But I feel like that we're seeing the changes, we're seeing things happen, and sometimes we got to pinch ourselves with that. But I think having these
yeah.
conversations is extremely important, and yeah, and everyone. Before we met on the program today, Emer said she was going to sing a song, so I'm just going to let her take
Oh,
it. I'm
I
just
know.
kidding. I'm kidding. I didn't know that you sang, though. You
Yeah.
sing too? You sing? Or you were just
Um,
referencing singing? Okay.
no, it's just, I mean, it's just all soul song. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
has just been my medicine,
Mm-hmm.
just, allowing my soul to sing. And yeah, I always feel it's probably the quickest way to align
Yeah.
myself again.
Yeah.
It just kind of brings me back. I just see it all kind of going up along the spine, and I just feel like centered again. So,
Yeah.
um, and so I would never have said like, oh, I'm a singer or this, that, or the other. It never would just. It just. I enjoyed it. It felt good. It feel
Mm-hmm.
good, and yeah. Now I've noticed what happens. The power of music and the power of sound when we have circles and we have the women come together and we're just sitting there, and you know I don't know, something happens. People get touched because it's the
Yeah.
rawness
Yeah.
of your soul speaking,
That's
and
right.
it's received by another. And the sounds might sound completely bonkers, or but it touches people
Yeah.
because it's the sincerity of it. So
Yeah.
that in itself is medicine.
I agree. I agree, and I'm very grateful in my own life. And like we were doing the show last night, somebody made a comment, and I don't know what it was, but I was tired, and and I said, but I also realized in that moment, you know what? When you do something like that, you do it for yourself. Anything that comes from that is fantastic. The contagion of soul power, or whatever it may be, but you do it for yourself, and when you do it, uh, I mean, I've had a lot of experiences in my life. I mean, my old corporate career, and like I said, I did a lot of public speakings from a very early age. But I cannot describe the uh, the breakthrough that working with sound and even being around his music. Because then you start to learn about the connection between the music and the geometry and the energy and the parts of the body even, and the, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a student of music, but I've been around it for 6 or 8 months now, off and on with Ty, and I realize the power of it all. It's very, very, and in his studio in Sedona, he's got 6 giant gongs. And so sometimes a lot of times I would work late to sleep there, and I would walk in at 11 o'clock, or I might go grab something to eat or get some coconut, come back, and I would be like, like you get, like you're splintered everywhere, and I would just go up and I'd bing, hit one gong and lay down, and it would just, like you said about the dancing, it would just, or the singing, it just brings it right back. Yeah.
And like some of the tones that come through, it's like you don't even know where they're coming from. They sound completely, I don't know. I can't even put words on it, but it brings me into a state. It brings me into this just state of pure peace, and I just feel like my whole body expands, and then it's like when I see the coding just comes through. So, I mean, my mind is gone completely. Yes. The sounds just come through, and I just see all these just codes coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a chant. It's like a channel. Like when people channel, and they don't know what they said. Like it's not. You're literally a conduit. That's the way I look at it. You're a conduit. I'm 50 years old dancing. Like I'd been dancing for 25 years after 2 or 3 months of doing it a lot, and how does that work? How does that happen? How does that work? But it was because I was connected to my soul, my essence of my soul. We can't wait. By the way, she was telling me that 1 year ago tomorrow is the last time we did a show. That's weird.
Yeah.
We can't wait a year though. If you're up for it. I mean, if you would be open to.
Just checking to see my battery is still in. Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it will exactly. Yeah, tomorrow will be one year till the last time we're on.
I can't make it up. Yeah. What is that? I do that. When do you do that? I do this.
Oh, this is totality mudra. So this is another one as well. If anyone wants to do this, just like pressing your fingertips in together like that. I usually point my thumbs in towards my heart.
Yeah.
And then press on the fingertips, and just breathing, connecting with your breath, and breathe in, and it just starts to balance everything.
I notice.
Because of the lag.
I know.
When I'm just doing my language and the movements and everything, like these are the mudras that automatically just come, and I don't really kind of know why I'm doing them, but just after doing them for a long time, then you kind of start to feel into, well, what happens to your body, what starts to shift when you're using them. Yeah. So it's also so powerful just using like the really simple mudras.
Yeah, Morgan's shown me a few, but I noticed, and I didn't know when this started, like maybe two years ago, but when I would be certain times I'd be doing the show even, I would make this. I would do that, and I would have it right here. Or if somebody was doing a meditation, now you probably couldn't see it because I had it under the camera, and then after a while it's like, why am I doing that? But it feels, and I saw you do it, and I was like, wow, that's what I do. Cool.
Yeah.
So
I would start to end when if I go into to channel in anything, I usually start with my hands down like that, and then it just kind of goes, and then my hands just take on a life of their own.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how I think I do like this, and then up, but usually I think it's like this, with my elbows straight out. And I just, like I said, I never thought about it. I just found myself doing it. I got to ask you one more question.
It's innate. Like
yes.
We've done it before, and now it's just a matter of just allowing the movement to happen.
That's very true. See, that's another thing that came back. When I was 34, I went out of business, so I kind of hit a tough spot. and I went to work for somebody, which I hadn't worked for anyone in quite a few years. This is way back, 30 years ago. And one day I went home, and I was already reading and meditating and stuff like that, and I just started chanting in a closet. And I did it for like 3 months, and manifested. And I was being shown this the other day. Do you remember when you manifested all that stuff? Like, I mean, I had nothing. I had $1,000 truck, and I ended up getting a contract for $500,000. Was the a result of it, which just didn't make any sense. But yeah, I think it is innate, and I think that's why the sounds are coming back, the toning, and the emphasis on the resonance of sound. I think it's all making it come back. But I have to ask you, is that a painting of you up there
behind me?
Yeah, is that you?
No, that is Mary. That's Mary Magdalene.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a painting by Jean Bowen, beautiful artist, another Irish artist, and
it is beautiful.
Yeah,
that is a beautiful.
She painted it.
Now
it's
you
kind
mentioned.
of like
Go ahead.
It's kind of like, for me, I see her in kind of like the darker goddess aspect in this painting. So it's like it could be called like the Black Madonna, the Dark Goddess, just in that form of pure creation and holding everything and holding everyone. So when I see that painting, it always reminds me that we're always held.
Yeah, no doubt.
No matter what's going on, we're always held. And I think sometimes we try to do this and go on this journey on our own, and this is so much bigger than us.
Yeah, we need all the help.
And like we're almost like, when you get into that state of meditation sometimes, and you kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I am nothing, but I'm everything all at once. You know that feeling?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like everything just appears.
Yeah.
And you're like, you just feel that you're nothing, like you're invisible, but you're everything. So it's just always that reminder, like, we're not doing this on our own. We have the support.
Oh, yeah.
We have the tools. We're being given the tools. As I said, like, use your voice, move your body. It's really simple. Drink more water, get out in nature. And, those are the things that are going to get us through. And stay as present as you possibly can. And just, let go of the old judgment. Let go of the old judgment, and you'll go far.
That's a huge one. That's really ultimately it to me. Like that's kind of my detector all day long. Like catching myself. Yeah. Okay, because it's so we know the drill. You mentioned real quick, because maybe this will be something beneficial to some of the people. I saw 3 people say they were in Ireland. I know some other people in Ireland. Yeah. But do you mentioned the women's circles. Do you meet in the physical with women over there? Okay.
Yes, I do. At the moment, I'm in my hometown, so I'm just holding weekly meditation groups just to give people space to come together, and I call it meditation. It's kind of they do a lot more work than that. They really do start to go deep, and it's just creating that container and creating that space where we just allow the goddess to come through, and Mother, Father, God to come through and just weave together. And I don't plan them, so I'll go in and I'll just really sit in and tune into what's going on with the people, and then we're just taken on a journey. And inevitably people will cry, the tears will flow, but it's just that release and just that that feeling of I'm home in my body. And that's my passion at the moment, especially after lockdown. I was really fortunate because I was doing all the calls online and everything, but my God, I really miss that human contact of sitting in a room with people, being able to hold them, being able to hug them, being able to just allow them have their human experience and allow them have their release if something is moving or shifting through them. And
right.
just doing those meditation groups, I really have become aware of how much we're connected to the elements, because we would take on a theme, and it was almost like the rain would come or the wind would come, and the elements would be supporting and dancing with us. So it's just so fantastic to be back in person with people.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do this. I do that, and then the sacred sites in Ireland as well.
Whoa. That would be cool.
Yeah, they are
That would.
powerful, and
Yeah.
I mean, all you need to do is just go, leave everything you've ever like thought you thought about yourself. Leave everything behind. Dump it all. Show up raw and naked
Right.
with humility. Ask permission to enter the land, and then just go and sit and be.
Wow.
And then the magic starts to happen. And if you can really stay present with that, the wisdom of the land will speak to you, and um, it will teach you, just as there's this beautiful dance that happens, and this beautiful dialogue that happens, and whatever needs to be seen will be revealed to you when you're on the land here. And this, the sites are so ancient.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just can't believe that I am here and I have access to all of this so close to me. I can hop in my car and an hour and a half up the road or wherever, there's like just really incredible places to visit here. So I'm
Nice.
lucky I'm here in Ireland.
Well,
And Glastonbury is only, it's like less than an hour flight. It's like a 40-minute flight from me.
really,
So,
I have
yeah,
no familiarity with the geography, but I mean, I
yeah,
know the geography. I've never been there. I didn't know it would only took 40 minutes. Somebody asked
yeah,
if you want to give the information. They're in
sure.
Dublin and wanted to
hmm
know where your hometown or where you're at. I guess.
I'm in Gorey.
Gory.
I'm in Wexford, yeah. So they'll know,
Okay,
not that far.
so that's where she's
So yeah,
at. Somebody else is asking. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
there's a retreat in Glastonbury as well. I'll be holding one in May. So if anyone's in, anybody kind of, if it's on anyone's bucket list to go and visit Glastonbury, and spend time there, it's one of the places that I kind of go to the most. As I said, I have a friend who, we travel together quite a lot, and it's really really beautiful. It's magical. So yeah, that's going to be in
Glastonbury.
May, and then
Uh,
Glastonbury.
yeah, our friend Millie, she lives an hour from Glastonbury. Yeah, so if you guys are interested in a Glastonbury gathering in May, reach out
So
to
yeah,
Emer. And are there any sacred sites in Houston? I'm sure there are. Everywhere I've been, there's sacred sites. They're just not as pronounced as, like Stonehenge, and because a lot of them are hidden. Or, yeah, like in Arkansas, I know a couple. But, you know, how many people know about them, I don't know. But, yeah, there's sacred sites everywhere. Just,
absolutely.
just got to dig for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if
But,
you don't live close to one, you can always tune in.
that's right. Well, yeah, and I think there's no question that oh, you live here. We have to. Hello. Uh, well, yeah, there's no question the whole thing with the pyramids and sites like Stonehenge, because that's not the only one. There's a whole bunch of Stonehenges, um,
No.
uh, right? I mean, I saw one the other day. They were just digging it up. It's only been discovered, I want to say, like 15 years ago. Then they were digging it, and then they had a guy standing on the head, and he was about this big. These things are huge. They got to be like 50 feet, 60 feet, 70 feet tall. Wow.
And they're usually built like, I mean, I don't know, I'm just thinking of like Montsegur in France. At the time when the first time I went to France, I had huge resistance to go there. Like my whole body was like, "Ugh, don't want to go there." And as soon as I stepped foot on the land, my body started to purge. I mean, like
Do
people
you
were
think
probably
it
like
was?
staring at me.
Do you think it was like bad experiences from previous incarnations? Because now that you said that, I've never thought about it, but I think about France, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
that's,
for me, for me, it was like there was a strong connection with the Magdalene line, and I think it was the Cathars.
yeah, that's
So we
yeah,
went to Montsegur, and being there was like probably it was the closest, and it was again through song.
yeah,
It was the closest I've ever felt like being in that area. I mean, all of these places were built on top of portal areas and Stargate activation points, and I mean they're not built randomly. They're all
no,
built, and so. I remember being there at a point, and again during COVID, so you needed your little COVID pass to enter into the forest to get up to Montsegur, which is crazy, but we managed to get ourselves in there, and again the elements working with us. It rained the whole time that we were there, so nobody else was up there. And when we got up, it was just completely covered in mist. And I remember standing, it was like a really, really high up. And I remember just standing there and my whole body just released. And again, the song just started to come through me and I started to move. And I was taken away. I was up, I don't know where I was, maybe up in the angelic realm or something, but all I could do was just bring this all down coming in through me. And then my womb starts to shake and then it just goes into the earth.
Wow.
And yeah, and then afterwards, as soon as we finished, mist goes, sun comes out, rainbows out, and everything's all joyous, and the people start to come up. So that tends to happen quite a lot, like when we just get this like real urge to go somewhere, and I'll go and it'll rain and there'll be nobody there, and then as soon as we finish, sun comes back out again, and people arrive. So I mean, that's how nature works. It's always supporting us.
Yeah, no, that's true. I know we've noticed that. Like the first time she came over in 2017, ever since then, even now, I'll be talking to her on the phone, and we did a session, and next thing you know, it's inexplicably pouring rain in both locations. Or we did a session last year, and it was. One of us was summer, one of us was winter. So I think she was winter, I was summer. I go into Walmart, we had a session or something. I come out and it's freezing cold in the middle of summer. And then the reverse happened over there. Yeah, the reverse happened over there. So yeah, and then even like you're saying, when things happen, the weather kind of accentuates it. Like even like at the Soulogy Fest in Arkansas, somebody had gifted me an RV right next to the stage. My friends got to use it. I didn't get to use it. But the day it was over on a Sunday, they picked it up on Monday morning, the people that delivered it. My friends were saying in the next space over, they stayed for like another 2 or 3 weeks. That night, it stormed and lightning struck the pad of where the RV was. Kind of there was a bunch of there was so much stuff went on there, like with the nature beings, off planet, on planet, Atlantean. It was pretty wild. But yeah, to your point, because that's my first go-to is nature. So it's the trees and the foliage, the trees, the water, and the wind. It's pretty much, and the animals. So for me, it's always something I'm very, very sensitive to, and it's been doing weird stuff to me lately. Like I know there's weather manipulation, but it's like I can feel the force of natural coming through it anyway.
It does, and it comes out of nowhere. Sometimes you're standing, and all of a sudden you'll feel this gust of wind coming in, and it starts to move with you, and you're just okay, and you just kind of breathe in and surrender into it. And there's always a transfer of information, especially for me. I know if there's like a retreat happening, if there's something happening, and I know there's going to be a lot of people there, we're all going to be working together. It will always rain. And I know I'm in Ireland, but this happens abroad as well. It will always rain. And I just go out. I go out and I just stand in it and I just welcome the codes and just go, okay, thank you. And I know it's information coming for us. So, it's beautiful because it does really remind us that, this dance of evolution that we're all in, it's the elements, it's, it's above us, it's within us, it's below us, it's everything all at once.
Yeah.
And finding that connectedness literally comes right back to the breath.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, it's good seeing you. Well, let's not wait a year. How about we do it in another couple of months or something, if you're up to it.
Whenever you want. Whenever you want.
Cool.
I'm always here. And next time you'll sing me a song.
I don't know about that. But I guess I'm getting braver. I got this new equipment and everything. Yeah, all blessings to you and all of your loved ones. And thank you for the work you're doing, and I really enjoy sitting down with you. I know everybody does. And yeah, I'll hit you up in a couple of months. And you and Ramona need to get together. By the way, Ramona, if you're still out there.
We're going to go sort that out right now, and the two of us will come on. And we'll both be singing for you.
Oh, there you go. All right. You take care.
Take care, and thank you for everything you're doing.
You're welcome.